אנחנו מן הסתם נביא לכם גם את הקולות וגם את ההרצאות. בינתיים עוד מעט יצטרפו אלינו בשידור חי עוד שני חוקרים בכירים במכון שיענו לנו על שאלה שאולי לעתים נראית לא כל כך חשובה, אבל שאלה שהיא דרמטית מבחינת העוצמה הכלכלית והעוצמתה המדינית של מדינת ישראל. מדובר כמובן בחרם הבינלאומי שאנחנו חשים אותו לאט לאט ומן הסתם גם שומעים עליו לא מעט. אז הנה, שני האורחים הבאים שלנו הם תת-אלוף מייק הרצוג. שלום לך אדוני.
שלום וברכה, תת-אלוף במילואים.
תת-אלוף במילואים כמובן, לשעבר בכיר מאוד במערכת המדינית הישראלית, יועץ לשרי ביטחון, ואפשר לומר בימים אלו גם אחיו של המועמד לראשות הממשלה יצחק הרצוג. ואני רוצה גם לברך את פרופסור אלן ג'ונסון שהוא חוקר בכיר בביקום וגם עיתונאי ומפרסם. Hello, Professor Johnson, welcome. השיחה הזאת תתקיים מן הסתם באנגלית על מנת לאפשר גם לפרופסור ג'ונסון להשתתף במלואה. Well, we are going to talk about the boycott that Israel is starting to feel slowly but surely, right, Professor Johnson? We have to be worried about this
For sure, I think
problem.
On the surface, you can point to some very encouraging facts. British-Israel trade is hugely up. In the first 8 months of 2014, it increased 28%. We're talking a major trading relationship. 1 in 6 drugs in the British National Health Service comes from Teva. So it's tempting to say there's no real problem. I think that would be the wrong approach. I think it's more important to say, I think as I've heard Zibi Livni say about South Africa, when you talk to South Africans, they say for a long time, the boycott didn't really mean anything, and and then suddenly it really did. There was a tipping point reached, and I don't think we're there or even near that tipping point, but we need to be very aware of the fact that the boycott is beginning to creep from the worlds of academia and culture into the worlds of pension funds, supermarkets taking certain products off their shelves. That's dangerous, and it could go further.
The main issue is here that the Israeli leadership is emphasizing once and again that this is not coming from the political leadership of European states. It is coming from boycott, pro-Palestinian groups and so on. Will it gain power and force, and will it get to the governments eventually? This is what you believe?
Well, that is absolutely right. It usually comes out of the political left, out of the universities, out of the NGOs. So we have the Trade Union Congress willing to boycott Israel, the National Union of Students, the Cooperative Bank, which is part of the historic labor movement and so on. But their targets are very much the EU-Israel Association Agreement. Their targets are defense arrangements and export licenses and so on. So that's where they would like to go. And one of the ways they will try to do that, I think, is to push the idea of a settlements-only boycott to begin with.
Yeah.
And then if they get acceptance for that, they will say, well, not just settlements only, but also Israeli companies who have relationships to settlements or who benefit from settlements. So they've got a longer-term strategy than we might think.
Yeah, Mr. Herzog, when we hear about boycott or boycotting the settlements, we can say, most of the Israelis can say to themselves, well, those are only the settlements we don't have to be worried about. Are they wrong?
Well, it is true that you can make a point that boycotting settlement products is a legitimate way of pressurizing Israel. However, in many cases, it doesn't stop there. And those who initiate some boycott movements would like to go beyond that and ultimately boycott products in Israel proper. You already see signs of this. So it's not only labeling products so that you can tax them when they get to Europe, but it's also boycotting Israeli companies who have branches beyond the Green Line, or even products in Israel proper. So I wouldn't be indifferent to this phenomenon of boycotting settlement products.
Yes. How dependent is Israel on its export to Europe, for example?
Israel is highly dependent and sensitive here because Israeli export makes about a third of our gross domestic products. So that's, I think, a very sensitive area. It is true, and I agree with Alan, in terms of macroeconomics, the BDS movement, the boycott movement hasn't gained currency or weight. But this is a long-term project against the state of Israel and should be very well aware of the dangers.
Yeah, when we're talking about the groups, the BDS groups that are pressuring the political leaders in Europe, I mean, Europe is changing, demographically. What's the influence of the new immigrants that came into Europe?
Well, it is a factor for sure. If we look, for instance, at the British Labour Party, during the course of the Gaza conflict, it really departed from what had been a long-term bipartisan consensus in the UK about the Israel-Palestine conflict. Now, without wanting to be too cynical, one of the reasons that was at play, at least, was that Muslim populations play a role in a whole series of marginal constituencies in the UK. The next election, which we have coming up very soon in the UK, is going to be very, very tight, and that's one of the factors. But it isn't just about voting, it's also about the politics of social movements and NGOs.
It's growing, right? It
For
starts
sure.
somewhere very small, and it grows and grows, and suddenly you have it everywhere, including in parliaments in Europe. And we saw it just a few months ago when in Spain and in many other countries, MKs were voting for a Palestinian state to acknowledge one.
But what I would say is it's important to put those votes in the right kind of perspective. For instance, the British vote, even though it was 274 to 12 or so, it's not a vote for boycott. It's not a vote against Israel straightforwardly. It was passed with an amendment from former Foreign Secretary Jack Straw, which said this is to assist the parties to move towards the two-state solution. So I think for a lot of MPs, they think of themselves as very pro-Israel, for its right to exist, its right to be secure, but they're increasingly impatient with the non-appearance of a Palestinian state, and they feel, I think mistakenly, but they feel moves of this kind can push that process along a bit.
Mr. Herzog, does Israel have any kind of tools to fight the BDS groups and movement?
Israel has many tools. I think Israel has been, woken up to this phenomenon in the last few years, and many things were done, but I think a lot could be done beyond what's being done right now. I would begin with a clear definition adopted by all government ministries of what is delegitimization. Not every criticism of Israel is delegitimization. And to the best of my knowledge, not all ministries share the same definition of the phenomenon. Beyond that, I think Israel should be more proactive in moving on to the offensive against those groups and individuals who initiate, who generate delegitimization of Israel in the international community, like name and shame, expose their real intentions, which are not a two-state solution, but rather a binational state or one-state reality. And I think Israel could do also more in drawing the line to contributors to delegitimization between legitimate criticism and delegitimization.
Yeah, but we have heard so many times the Europeans blaming Israel for building in the settlements. During negotiations, the settlements are some kind of what?
The settlements are, I would say, the best ammunition for delegitimizers of Israel. When we talk about delegitimization, it means the denial of the legitimacy of Israel as a nation-state of the Jewish people.
And this is what? Anti-Semitism or anti-Israelism?
No, I'm not saying it's anti-Semitism. Not every attack on Israel is anti-Semitism. I'll be very careful about drawing the line here. What I'm saying is, since delegitimization is denying the legitimacy of Israel as a nation-state of the Jewish people, and these people, most of them, are not explicitly saying Israel shouldn't exist. They are attacking Israel from the space of criticism on Israel's policies beyond the line, and especially as regards Israel's settlement policy. Not every criticism on Israel regarding settlements is anti-Semitism or delegitimization, but we have to be aware of the fact that this is ammunition in the hands of those of Israel detractors.
Professor Johnson, I was trying to figure out with the two gentlemen who sat on your seats before you whether the United States and perhaps the entire world lost its patience or interest in what's happening here in our neighborhood.
I think it's losing patience. I don't think it's lost interest by any means. I think, to follow on from what Mike was saying, Europe's position I think left and right, high and low is pretty much settled, which is it favors two states for two peoples, Israeli security, 100% behind it, Israeli settlements, absolutely not acceptable.
Yeah.
The minority of the real delegitimizers, as Mike says, the people who don't want Israel to exist, full stop, they are a minority. What they want to do is to connect themselves to the real significant players, the political parties, the trade unions, the churches, academia, opinion formers. Their ability to do that, to break out of the minority status and really create something of what they'd like to do, create a kind of wave of feeling that pushes towards boycott, divestment and sanctions. It's dependent partly upon what Israel does, and one of the most significant things, fair or unfair, is every settlement announcement. It's like watching a layer of opinion. You're like watching a coastal erodes into the sea. Every time we see these announcements, we see another little bit of opinion erode away from Israel, so they really matter.
So, gentlemen, thank you for the bad news. You have brought us here. I've been tipped off that you are going back to listen to what's going on in the hall. Thank you, Mr. Herzog, and of course, Professor Johnson, for joining us here live from the INSS conference. אנחנו לאט לאט מסיימים את המשדר המיוחד הזה מכאן, מן האולפן, אבל זה כמובן לא אומר שום דבר לגבי הכנס עצמו של המכון למחקרי ביטחון לאומי. באולם כבר מתכנסים לאט לאט האורחים וגם הדוברים על מנת להמשיך ולהזין לניתוחים וגם לפרשנויות לגבי המצב שלנו כאן במזרח התיכון. אנחנו נשארים כאן כמובן בשידור חי. בהמשך נשוב לכאן עם עוד מרואיינים ועוד מסקנות ועוד שאלות בוערות. בינתיים אנחנו מחזירים את השידור לאולם כדי לשמוע את ההרצאות שלכם. יום נעים, צהריים טובים, נתראה בהמשך.